Hey everybody. So the other day on one of my videos, I had a question from um, the person who used to go to Bellevue High School, asking about the vision of these vlogs and what we're hoping to accomplish with the work that we're doing and things like that. And I believe that this person authentically was curious as to why it is, and he or she espoused a view that if people stopped talking about race, that it wouldn't be a problem. And this is what is commonly referred to as we need to strive to be colorblind. We don't need to talk about race and all of that things. And there's a really great essay by Ted Thornhill on this very topic. It's in a book that is called Getting Real About Race, which is the textbook that I use for race in the United States, and that's used in race in the United States at Bellevue College as well. But he has this whole essay that we read as a class, and we debrief and we talk about this idea that when you're talking about colorblindness in society, he mentions that there's two ways of thinking about it. There's a prescriptive and a descriptive way of thinking about it. And a prescriptive way of thinking about colorblindness is saying that you should not factor in a person's skin color when evaluating them, judging them, thinking about them, talking about them, anything like that. This a lot of times gets connected to Dr. King's "I Have a Dream" speech, where people are not judged by the color of their skin, but the content of their character. And I think that ultimately that's an admirable thing. But it also assumes that the problem with racism is skin color, that if we just didn't see skin color. And that's not the case. And I'm going to read his words because I don't want to take credit for it. But Ted Thornhill says that the differences in skin color are not the problem. Racism, racial discrimination, white racial privilege, and racial inequality are the problems. And so, I guess my biggest frustration with that perspective is I used to think that as well, and I thought that was the right, not racist tactic to do, is to act colorblind. But when you take on that point of view that you can be colorblind in our society that has so much racial inequality and racial injustice and racial privilege for white individuals, then you're basically saying, like, we're going to ignore all these systemic issues. We're going to ignore all the obstacles to opportunity. We're going to ignore the injustices, and we're just going to pretend like race didn't have a role in all of those different things. And if you do that, the descriptive way of doing it is you're talking about a post-racial society, and that's the belief that our society in the United States is post-racial, that race no longer impacts how you get an education, get a job, are perceived by police, society, or anything like that. And I think that is flat out wrong. I don't think you can say that about the United States. We are not post-racial. This whole narrative came about really strongly after the election of Barack Obama, but we saw all the racial tension that came up when he was that, and the response and reaction to having a black man at that level of leadership in our country. And so I think that while colorblindness is well-meaning by a lot of people, you really need to get in depth into the systemic issues that are happening in our criminal justice system, in our education system, in our politics, in our businesses, hiring practices, all those different things, and see those disparities. Because when you do, it's impossible to come to any conclusion other than that race still does have an impact. So if you want to try to get to a point where you and your children that you teach, don't judge people based off the color of their skin, that's okay. But don't also lie to them and say, because I don't want you to judge that, that's how our society is as well, because it's simply not the case. So I encourage you to get a copy of this if you'd like, or maybe just Google and see if you can find the essay "Silencing the Myth of a Colorblind Society" by Ted Thornhill. It's pretty thorough takedown of the colorblind argument, and think you'd have some good talking points. So for anybody who has that belief, like I sincerely believe that your heart's in the right place, but I don't think that that is going to be the solution moving forward. We have to talk about these issues. We have to destroy systemic issues before we can achieve any type of post-racial society. So we'll see you tomorrow.